Ambassador Alan Pierce stood at the viewport of his ship, watching as they approached the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. The structure floated in space like a giant metal spider, with arms stretching out in all directions. Each arm represented one of the 17 oldest spacefaring species in the known galaxy. Soon, Pierce hoped, there would be an 18th arm for humanity. "We're getting the approach vectors now, sir," said Lieutenant Kelly Barnes, his chief security officer. Her hand rested near her sidearm out of habit, though weapons would not be allowed in the council chambers. "Very good, Lieutenant," Pierce said. He straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and checked his reflection in the polished surface of a nearby console. At 55 years old, with gray streaking his brown hair, Pierce carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent decades in public service. Earth had chosen him for this mission because of his calm demeanor and skill at finding common ground with different cultures. The ship docked with a gentle thud, and Pierce took a deep breath. "Remember," he told his small team, "we represent not just the United States or any single nation, but all of Earth. This is humanity's first impression on the galactic stage." The delegation walked down the boarding ramp and into the arrival bay of the council station. Aliens of various shapes and sizes moved about in an orderly fashion. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated, and a few seemed to shift form as they moved. Despite years of preparation and study of alien biology, the human delegation couldn't help but stare. A tall, blue-skinned being approached them. It had 4 arms and a face with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. "Ambassador Pierce," it said in perfect English, the translation device at its throat glowing softly. "I am Kix, assistant to Council Elder Zixval. Welcome to Centauri Prime." Pierce bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, Kix. My team and I are honored to be here." "Follow me," Kix said. "The Council will see you in 1 standard hour. Until then, you may rest in your assigned quarters." As they followed Kix through wide corridors filled with representatives from dozens of species, Pierce noticed something odd. Many aliens stopped to stare at the humans, but not with curiosity, with what looked like fear or disgust. "They're acting like we have some kind of disease," whispered Dr. Joe Miller, the delegation's science advisor. "Or like we're dangerous," Barnes added quietly. Pierce frowned, but kept walking. The reaction wasn't entirely surprising. Humanity had gone from discovering faster-than-light travel to requesting council membership in just 40 years, an unprecedented pace that made many species uncomfortable. Their quarters were comfortable, but clearly designed for diplomatic visitors rather than permanent residents. Pierce used the brief time to review his presentation once more. Earth needed this alliance. Despite their rapid advancement, humans were still vulnerable alone in a galaxy filled with ancient civilizations. When the time came, Kix returned to escort them to the council chamber. The room was enormous, with a circular floor and seats rising, in tiers around it like an amphitheater. Each of the 17 council species occupied a section, with their elder seated at the front. Pierce and his team took their position in the center of the floor. He looked up at the assembled alien representatives and felt the weight of 7 billion human lives on his shoulders. "The Galactic Council recognizes Ambassador Alan Pierce of Earth," announced a deep voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The central elder, a being that resembled a tall praying mantis with silvery skin, leaned forward. "I am Grand, Elder Matok. You claim your species is ready to join this council, established 10,000 years before your kind learned to make fire. Why should we believe this?" Pierce activated his presentation device, and holographic images of Earth appeared. Around the chamber, its cities, natural wonders, and people. "Honored elders," Pierce began, "humanity comes before you not claiming perfection but progress. We have overcome countless divisions on our world to stand united. We have developed technology that has allowed us to reach the stars, cure our diseases, and begin to heal our planet. We seek to learn from your wisdom and contribute our unique perspective to this galactic community." His words were measured and sincere, but Pierce could feel the tension in the room growing. Something was wrong. Suddenly, an elder with dark purple scales and 4 eyes stood. Enough deception, Zixval of the Nebulon Collective hissed. We have evidence that humans have developed and tested quantum displacement weapons, technology, forbidden by council law for the past 3 millennia. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Pierce stared in shock. That's absolutely false, he said firmly. Earth has no such weapons. We haven't even fully understood the theoretical principles behind them. Then explain these, Zixval said. The chamber darkened and new images appeared. What looked like test sites and weapon schematics with Earth military markings. Pierce stepped forward, his mind racing. These are fabrications. Earth's governments have never authorized such research. Barnes leaned toward him and whispered urgently, Sir, those look like altered images from our deep space research stations. Pierce nodded slightly and addressed the council again. Honored elders, these images have been tampered with. We request time to disprove these false accusations and identify their source. Matak and the other elders consulted briefly, their voices too low to hear. Finally, Matak spoke. The evidence is concerning enough that we must take precautions. Earth's application for membership is suspended pending investigation. Pierce nodded stiffly. This was a setback, but not insurmountable. We understand and will cooperate fully. There is more, Zixval said, moving down to the chamber floor. For too long, the Council has allowed dangerous young species to develop, unchecked. Earth represents an unacceptable risk with its rapid advancement and warlike history. Something in the Elder's tone made the hair on Pierce's neck stand up. He noticed guards moving to block the exits. What is this? Pierce demanded. Grand Elder Matak's voice was cold. The Council has voted. Earth must be contained before it becomes a threat to galactic peace. As is our right under Section 7 of ancient law, we will make an example of its representative. Guards surrounded Pierce and his team. Barnes reached for her weapon but found nothing. They'd been required to leave all arms on their ship. This is a violation of diplomatic protocol, Dr. Miller shouted as the guards separated him from Pierce. Pierce stood tall as the guards grabbed his arms. If you do this, you will regret it, he said calmly. Earth will not submit to intimidation. Take the others to holding cells, ordered Zixval. The ambassador remains for judgment. As Barnes and Miller were dragged away, Pierce realized the truth. This had never been a fair application process. Some faction had already decided humanity was too dangerous to join the galactic community. With dignity, Pierce stood before the council as Zixval approached with what looked like a ceremonial weapon. The chamber's lights focused on them as cameras broadcasted the moment across the galaxy. Does the accused have final words? Matak asked formally. Pierce looked directly into the broadcast lens, knowing his words would reach Earth. Earth will remember, he said clearly. Earth will not forgive. The weapon in Zixval's hand glowed with energy. The last thing Pierce saw was the satisfied look in the Elder's eyes before everything went white. On Earth, the transmission cut off, and the planet's response began. Defense Secretary Olivia Winters sat frozen in her chair as the screen went black. The entire room fell silent. 20 of Earth's highest military and government officials had just watched Ambassador Pierce's execution broadcast live from the Galactic Council station. Play it again, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The technician hesitated. Ma'am, I don't think... Play it again, she repeated more firmly. The recording started once more. They all watched as Pierce stood tall before the Yao Alien Council, his final words clear and defiant. Earth will remember, Earth will not forgive. Winters stood up. At 62, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 wars, she carried the weight of Earth's defense on her shoulders. Get me the president. Now. 30 minutes later, President Nathan Howard addressed an emergency joint session of the United Nations. His normally calm face was tight with controlled anger as he stood before representatives from every nation on Earth. Today, we have witnessed an act of barbarism, he began, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. Ambassador Alan Pierce was murdered while on a diplomatic mission. This was not just an attack on one man or one nation. It was an attack on all of humanity. Screens around the chamber showed Pierce's final moments. Many representatives wept, openly. For decades, we looked to the stars with hope, Howard continued. We dreamed of joining a peaceful galactic community. Today we have learned the truth. There is no enlightened fellowship waiting for us. Only the same tyranny and cruelty humans have fought throughout our history. He paused, letting his words sink in. As of this moment, Earth is at war. Not with any single alien species, but with a corrupt council that believes it can execute our people without consequences. The chamber erupted in applause and shouts of agreement. For the first time in human history, Earth stood truly united. In an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Frank Collins watched the president's speech with grim satisfaction. Pierce had been his friend for 30 years. They had served together in the Navy before Pierce moved to diplomacy and Collins to the newly formed Space Defense Force. His secure phone rang. "Collins," he answered. "Admiral, the President has authorized Project Prometheus," said Secretary Winters. On the other end. "Full activation, effective immediately. You're in command." Collins closed his eyes briefly. "Understood, Madam Secretary. God help us all." Project Prometheus had been Earth's insurance policy, a classified defense system developed in secret. Over the past 15 years, it included orbital weapon platforms, stealth ships with advanced weapons, and military bases hidden throughout the solar system. The project had been controversial among those few who knew about it, with many arguing it violated the spirit of peaceful contact. Now it seemed those preparations would save humanity. "Begin deployment of all Phase 1 assets," Collins ordered his staff after ending the call. "And wake up the Sentinel ships. All of them." At the Space Defense Headquarters in Houston, Dr. Samantha Reed worked through the night. As Earth's foremost expert in alien languages and Pierce's widow, she had a double stake in what was happening. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands moved steadily over her keyboard. "I've got something," she called to her team. "I've broken into their communication network." The others gathered around her screen as alien text scrolled by, automatically, translating into English. "They're sending a fleet," she said, her voice hollow. "Punitive action against Earth. 27 warships, departing from Proxima Centauri in 6 days." "How long until they reach us?" asked her assistant. 8 days after departure. Reed's hands tightened into fists. "They think we're defenseless. Their intelligence is outdated." When she had first met Alan 5 years ago at a linguistics conference, he had shared her belief that alien contact would bring knowledge and friendship. Now she understood why he had secretly supported Project Prometheus, despite his hopes for peace. He had always been able to see both the best and worst possibilities. On the council station, Lieutenant Kelly Barnes and Dr. Joe Miller sat in a small holding cell. They had watched helplessly as Pierce was executed. "What do you think they'll do with us?" Miller asked, his academic mind struggling to process what had happened. Barnes checked the cell door again, looking for weaknesses. "Either kill us too, or use us as bargaining chips," she said bluntly. The security officer had never trusted the council's invitation. "But they've made a terrible mistake." "What do you mean?" "They think this will frighten Earth into submission." Barnes's eyes narrowed. "They don't understand humans at all." Miller nodded slowly. Pierce knew exactly what he was doing with those final words. Back on Earth, millions of people watched recordings of the execution. Instead of creating terror, it sparked a cold, determined fury. Military recruitment offices were overwhelmed with volunteers. Factories converted to war production. Scientists worked around the clock to improve Earth's technology using what they had learned from alien data. In orbit, hidden weapon platforms emerged from stealth mode. The first wave of Earth's defense fleet gathered near Mars, out of sight of most observation systems. These ships were smaller than the Council vessels, but packed with Earth's most advanced technology. 6 days after Pierce's death, President Howard addressed the world again. "The Galactic Council believes we are primitive and weak," he said. "They are sending warships to force our surrender. They expect to find a frightened, divided planet." His face hardened with resolve. Instead, they will find humanity united and ready. For the first time in our long, troubled history, there are no wars between nations, no conflicts between ideologies. There is only Earth standing together against those who would enslave us. He looked directly into the camera. To any council agents who may be monitoring this broadcast, take this message back to your leaders. Ambassador Pierce's words were not just his own. They were the voice of humanity. Earth remembers. Earth will not forgive. In deep space, Admiral Collins stood on the bridge of the EDS Vengeance, Earth's most advanced warship. The vessel had been built in secret, using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien scout ship found in Antarctica decades earlier. "Status report," he ordered. "All systems ready, Admiral," reported his second-in-command, Captain Greg Foster. "The fleet is in position near Neptune. Our stealth systems are functioning perfectly." Collins nodded, thinking of his friend Pierce. "The Council fleet? They'll emerge from FTL in approximately 12 hours, sir. Right where Dr. Reed predicted." "Good." Collins looked at the tactical display showing Earth's hidden forces. "They expect to find sheep ready for slaughter. Instead, they'll find wolves." He turned to address his bridge crew. "The enemy believes they know humanity. They think we are primitive, divided, and easily conquered. Today, we will teach them how wrong they are. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." As he spoke, the first warning signals appeared on the long-range scanners. The Council fleet had arrived early. Earth's first interstellar war had begun. The Council warships appeared near Neptune in flashes of blue light. There were 27 of them, each 5 times larger than the biggest ships Earth had built. They moved in a perfect triangle formation, their engines glowing as they prepared to head toward Earth. Admiral Threlvox stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Council Judgment. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the tactical displays. "Status report," he demanded. "All ships present and accounted for, Admiral," reported his second-in-command. "No sign of human defenses. Their primitive sensors have likely not even detected us yet." Threlvox made a clicking sound that passed for laughter among his species. "As expected, begin the approach to their homeworld, standard intimidation pattern." The Council had done this hundreds of times over the millennia. Arrive with overwhelming force, display power, and demand surrender. Most species submitted immediately. Those who resisted were quickly destroyed as examples to others. "Message from Elder Zixval, Admiral," said the communications officer. "He expects regular updates on our progress." "Tell him all proceeds as planned," Threlvox replied. "The humans will bow before us within 30 hours. As the fleet began moving toward Earth, strange readings appeared on their sensors. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures near the 4th planet," reported the sensor officer, confusion in her voice. "They appear to be ships, but they're too small to be a threat." Threlvox moved to the display. "Magnify." The screen showed a cluster of small vessels near Mars. They were barely a quarter the size of Council warships, but there were dozens of them. "They sent a welcoming committee," he said dismissively. "Cute. Hail them and demand their immediate surrender." On the bridge of the EDS Vengeance, Captain Kevin Martinez watched the approaching Council fleet. At 35, he was young for such a command, but he had spent his entire career studying theoretical alien combat tactics. Now, those studies would be put to the test. "They're hailing us, Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Diane Foster. Martinez nodded. "Put them through." The main screen showed the alien admiral, a tall being with multiple eyes and gray-green skin. "Attention human vessels," Threlvox said. "This is Admiral Threlvox of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. Your species has been judged and found wanting. Surrender your planet immediately or face extinction." Martinez smiled slightly. "This is Captain Kevin Martinez of the Earth Defense Ship Vengeance. Perhaps you didn't get the message from Ambassador Pierce." His voice hardened. "Earth remembers. Earth will not forgive." Before the alien could respond, Martinez cut the transmission. "Battle stations. Activate the orbital defense grid." Throughout Earth's solar system, hidden weapon platforms came online. They had been disguised as asteroids, space debris, or small moons. Now their true nature was revealed as weapon ports, opened and targeting systems locked onto the Council ships. Threlvok stared at the blank screen. Arrogant primitives, all ships battle formation. Prepare to... He never finished his order. The space around Neptune suddenly lit up as hundreds of energy beams struck the Council fleet from multiple directions. "We're under attack," shouted his tactical officer. "Multiple weapon platforms detecting. Impossible. They're using graviton beam technology." "Evasive maneuvers," Threlvox ordered. "Return fire." The Council ships tried to respond, but they were caught by surprise. 3 exploded immediately, their shields useless against weapons they weren't prepared for. On the Vengeance, Martinez gave his next order. "Launch strike fighters. Execute Pattern Alpha." Hundreds of small, fast ships launched from Earth's fleet. Unlike the large, powerful Council warships, these fighters were designed for speed and maneuverability. They swarmed the alien vessels like angry bees, hitting critical systems before darting away. "Admiral," called out a panicked voice on the Council flagship. "These humans, they're using tactics we've never seen before. Our defensive algorithms can't predict their movements." It was true. The Council races had been fighting the same way, for thousands of years, relying on overwhelming force rather than strategy. They had forgotten the art of war. Humans, who had never stopped fighting each other until recently, had mastered it. "Impossible," Threlvox said. "They're primitives. They only achieved spaceflight a few decades ago." Another Council ship exploded, then another. The perfect formation broke apart as captains tried desperately to save their vessels. Martinez watched calmly. "Target their flagship. All weapons." The Vengeance moved forward, its advanced engines glowing blue. It was smaller than the Council. Judgment, but its weapons had been specifically designed to penetrate alien shields based on technology Earth had secretly studied for years. "They're targeting us specifically," Threlvox realized too late. "All power to forward shields." The Vengeance fired. Beams of concentrated energy struck the Council flagship from multiple angles. Its shields held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. "Hail them," Martinez ordered. Threlvox appeared on screen again, his command center now filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. "This is your final chance," Martinez said. "Surrender your fleet." The alien admiral drew himself up. "The Council does not surrender to lesser species." Martinez nodded. "Then remember Ambassador Pierce's words in your final moments." The Vengeance fired again. The Council judgment broke apart, its core erupting in a massive explosion. After 90 minutes of battle, it was over. Of the 27 Council ships, 20 were destroyed. The remaining 7 had surrendered, their crews taken prisoner. Martinez stood on his bridge looking at the damage reports. Earth's forces had lost 12 fighters and 1 support ship. It was a decisive victory, but he felt no joy in it, only grim satisfaction that the first stage of humanity's response was complete. "Captain," said Lieutenant Foster, "we've captured their communications array intact. We're downloading their network data now." "Good," Martinez replied. "Send it all to Dr. Reed back on Earth, and prepare a message to be broadcast on all Council frequencies." When the message was ready, Martinez stood before a camera. His uniform was dirty and torn from a minor explosion on the bridge during the battle, but his eyes were clear and determined. "This is Captain Kevin Martinez of Earth," he began. "Today your punitive fleet was defeated by the species you called primitive. This was not luck. This was not chance. This was humanity showing the galaxy what happens when you execute our diplomats and threaten our world." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You believed we would be easy prey. You were wrong. You believed we would surrender. You were wrong. You believed you understood humanity. You were catastrophically wrong." His voice grew colder. "This is only the beginning. Earth is coming for the Council. Not for the innocent species you've dominated for millennia, but for those who ordered and carried out the murder of our ambassador. Remember his words. Earth remembers. Earth will not forgive." As Martinez's message spread across Council space, panic began to grow. The unthinkable had happened. A primitive species had not only resisted but decisively defeated an enforcement fleet. And on Earth, Phase 2 of their response was already beginning. 2 weeks after the battle near Neptune, Colonel Susan Blackwood stepped off a small stealth ship onto the surface of Rigel III. The planet was far from Earth, deep in Council space. Its blue-green grass crunched under her boots, and 3 moons hung in the purple sky. "Stay alert," she told her team of 6 Special Forces soldiers. "We have 20 minutes until the patrol comes back." Operation Spectre had begun. While the Council was still reeling from their defeat at Neptune, Earth had launched its second phase of response. Dozens of small stealth ships, designed to be invisible to alien sensors, were deployed throughout Council space. Their mission? Gather intelligence, make contact with potential allies, and prepare for strategic strikes. Blackwood's team moved silently toward a cluster of domed buildings. Their armor was matte black, equipped with active camouflage technology that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Each soldier carried weapons designed specifically to counter Council defenses. "We're approaching the data center," whispered Sergeant Luis Ramirez, checking his scanner. 2 guards at the entrance. Blackwood signaled for her team to stop. "Non-lethal takedown. Remember, most species in Council space are not our enemies. Just the leadership." 2 team members moved ahead. There were soft popping sounds as tranquilizer darts hit the guards, who collapsed without raising an alarm. The team dragged them behind some bushes. "Jackson, Harris, get us inside," Blackwood ordered. The 2 tech specialists approached the door, connecting small devices to the control panel. Within 30 seconds, the door slid open. "We have 15 minutes to download their database and plant the device," Blackwood said as they entered. Inside, the building was cooler and filled with rows of alien computers. Jackson immediately got to work, connecting Earth technology to the alien systems. Harris began placing small devices throughout the facility. "Colonel, you need to see this," Jackson said after a few minutes, his voice tight with controlled anger. Blackwood moved to his side and looked at the screen. The data was in alien script, but their translation software was converting it to English. "My God," she whispered as she read. The files revealed the truth about the Galactic Council. For over 10,000 years, they had been systematically suppressing emerging civilizations. Any species that developed too quickly or showed too much independence was labeled a threat. Some were destroyed outright. Others, like hundreds of species throughout Council space, were kept as client races, technically part of the galactic community, but with strict limits on their technology and rights. "The story about our quantum weapons was completely fabricated," Jackson said. "They planned to subjugate Earth from the beginning." "Keep downloading," Blackwood ordered. "This changes everything." While her team worked, Blackwood explored further in the database. She found records of Council ships secretly harvesting resources from undeveloped planets, leaving their populations to starve. There were reports of Council agents sabotaging promising technologies on dozens of worlds, ensuring those species remained dependent. "Time check?" she asked. 7 minutes, Colonel," Ramirez replied. "Start packing up. We have what we need." Blackwood turned to Harris. "Is the device ready?" "Yes, ma'am. Set to activate in 3 days." The device wasn't a bomb or weapon. It was something far more dangerous to the Council. A transmitter that would broadcast the truth to every communication system in this sector. As they prepared to leave, Blackwood's scanner detected movement outside. "Someone's coming," she warned. Not a regular patrol. 6 individuals moving carefully. The team took defensive positions, ready for a fight. But when the door opened, it wasn't Council forces. It was a group of aliens from 6 different species, all looking nervous. "Don't shoot," said one, speaking perfect English. "We're the Underground Alliance. We've been waiting for you humans." Blackwood kept her weapon ready but signaled her team not to fire. "How did you know we were here? And how do you speak our language?" "We've been monitoring Council communications. After your victory at Neptune, we knew you would come." The speaker stepped forward, a tall being with scaled skin and 4 arms. "I am Katal. We've been fighting the Council's oppression for centuries but never had the means to truly challenge them. Until now. Another alien, small with large eyes, added, "We've studied Earth broadcasts for decades. Many of us learned your languages, hoping someday you would reach the stars." Blackwood made a quick decision. Earth needed allies who understood Council space better than they did. "We have 5 minutes before more patrols arrive. Come with us if you want, but I warn you, Earth is at war with the Council." Katal's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "We've been at war with them for generations, just without the means to fight back." They left together, moving swiftly through the shadows back to the stealth ship. Once aboard and safely away from the planet, Blackwood contacted Earth Command. Dr. Samantha Reed answered the transmission from her new office at Earth Defense Headquarters. After her work decrypting Council communications, she had been appointed as the chief liaison between human forces and potential alien allies. "Colonel Blackwood," she greeted, "your team is the third to report contact with resistance groups. It seems the Council isn't as beloved as they claimed." "Dr. Reed, we've found something bigger than resistance groups," Blackwood replied. "We have proof of systematic oppression across hundreds of worlds. The Council has been deliberately holding back technological development for thousands of years." She transmitted the files from Rigel 3. Reed's eyes widened as she reviewed them. "This changes our strategy," Reed said finally. "We thought we were fighting for Earth. It seems we're fighting for the freedom of half the galaxy." Over the next month, 20 more Special Forces teams deployed throughout Council space. Each made contact with resistance groups on different worlds. Earth provided them with weapons, training, and most importantly, hope. On Centauri Prime, the Council headquarters, panic spread among the ruling elders. Reports came in daily of uprisings on previously docile worlds. Council ships were ambushed by small but well-armed resistance fighters using Earth tactics. Classified data was being leaked, exposing millennia of exploitation. Elder Zixval, who had executed Ambassador Pierce, called an emergency meeting. "This is your fault," accused Elder Matok. "Your execution of the human diplomat provoked them." "They would have discovered the truth eventually," Zixval defended himself. "It was necessary to make an example of them before they grew too powerful." "Well, your example failed," another elder said bitterly. "Now we face the most serious threat to Council rule in 10,000 years. A young aide rushed into the chamber, breaking all protocol. "Honored elders, we've detected a large fleet of ships approaching from the direction of Earth. Over 200 vessels." The elders fell silent. Their intelligence had suggested humans would need years to build such a force. "How long until they arrive?" Talk asked. 3 days, Elder, and there's more. Many of the ships appear to be from other species. Rigelians, Proxans, Alderans, species that have been under our control for centuries. They're all flying alongside the human fleet." Zixval's face drained of color. In just 2 months, humans had done what no species had managed in 10,000 years. They had united the oppressed races of the galaxy against the Council. On the bridge of the Earth flagship Freedom, Admiral Frank Collins looked at the tactical display showing their massive fleet. The main Earth forces had been joined by ships from 24 alien species, all former subjects of the Council who had risen up with Earth's help. "Set course for Centauri Prime," he ordered. "It's time to finish what Ambassador Pierce started." The Shadow War was over. The final confrontation was about to begin. The combined fleet of Earth and liberated worlds arrived at Centauri Prime 6 months after Ambassador Pierce's execution. Over 300 ships surrounded the massive Council station, weapons ready but not firing. On the bridge of the Freedom, Admiral Frank Collins looked at the orbital structure where his friend had died. At 62, Collins had spent his life preparing for war but hoping for peace. Now he had to decide how this conflict would end. "They're hailing us, Admiral," reported his communications officer. "Put them through," Collins ordered. The main screen showed Grand Elder Matok, his mantis-like form seeming smaller than in previous transmissions. "Admiral Collins," Matok began, "the Council requests terms for peace negotiations." Collins's face remained expressionless. "There will be no negotiations, only surrender, unconditional and immediate." The alien leader drew himself up. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. We do not surrender. Look outside your windows, Elder, Collins said coldly. Your empire is falling. 24 species have already broken free from your control. Your forces are scattered or defeated. You executed our ambassador when we came to you in peace. Now you face us in war. He leaned forward. You have 1 hour to surrender those responsible for Ambassador Pierce's death. Open your station to our forces and prepare for public trials. If you refuse, we will take the station by force. The screen went dark as Matak cut the transmission. Captain Maria Chen approached Collins. Do you think they'll surrender, sir? They've never had to before, Collins replied. But they've never faced humanity before either. Throughout the council station, panic spread. Some elders demanded they fight to the end. Others suggested using the station's self-destruct system to deny the humans their victory. A few began destroying records of their worst crimes. In a private chamber, Elder Zixval prepared to escape on a hidden ship. He had already transferred vast wealth to secret accounts. He would disappear into the unmapped regions of the galaxy and wait for this human problem to resolve itself. As he reached for the door controls, it slid open to reveal Elder Matak and 4 guards. Going somewhere, Zixval? Matak asked. Just securing important documents, Zixval lied. For the coming negotiations. There will be no negotiations, Matak said. Only surrender, and you will be the first we surrender to the humans. Zixval stepped back. You can't be serious. I acted to protect us all. You acted to protect your own power, Matak replied. And now we all pay the price. He turned to the guards. Take him to the Great Hall. The rest of the council is already gathering. Exactly 1 hour after Collins's ultimatum, the humans received a message. The council had voted to surrender. They requested only that the civilians on the station be treated humanely. The first human troops to board the council station were not soldiers, but a special team led by Lieutenant Kelly Barnes and Dr. Joe Miller, the 2 members of Pierce's original delegation who had been held prisoner for 6 months. They had been rescued by one of Colonel Blackwood's teams 2 weeks earlier. Barnes walked through the corridors where she had once been dragged as a prisoner. Now council guards lowered their eyes as she passed. I never thought we'd be back here, like this, Miller said quietly. I did, Barnes replied. I always knew Earth would come for us, and for Pierce. In the Great Hall where Ambassador Pierce had been executed, the council elders waited. Earth forces entered, led by Admiral Collins and Dr. Samantha Reed. Representatives from 24 formerly subjugated species accompanied them, including Catal of the Underground Alliance. Collins walked to the center of the room, to the exact spot where Pierce had stood. In the name of Earth and all free worlds, he said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. I accept your surrender. Elder Matak stepped forward and formally handed over the council's ceremonial scepter of authority. Where is Elder Zixval? Reed asked, scanning the aliens present. Matak gestured, and guards brought forward the struggling council member who had killed Pierce. We offer him to human justice, Matak said. Reed walked slowly to stand before Zixval. For 6 months, she had dreamed of this moment. As Pierce's widow, she had the right to demand the harshest punishment. Do you know who I am? She asked the alien. The maid of the human ambassador, Zixval replied, his voice barely audible. Yes, Reed said. The woman whose husband you murdered to make an example. The room fell silent. Everyone expected her to demand his immediate execution, the same fate he had given Pierce. Instead, Reed turned to Collins. Admiral, I request that Elder Zixval and all those who voted for my husband's death be imprisoned for life rather than executed. Murmurs of surprise spread through the hall. Collins raised an eyebrow. May I ask why, Doctor? Because we're not them, she said simply. My husband believed in justice, not revenge. If we execute them, we become what they were. If we show justice tempered with mercy, we become something better. Collins nodded slowly. Very well. Elder Zixval and his co-conspirators will face trial for crimes against Earth and all oppressed species. If found guilty, They will serve life imprisonment. The following days saw rapid changes across Council space. The old order was dismantled. Representatives from Earth and the liberated worlds began forming a new galactic organization, one based on equality and cooperation rather than domination. 1 year later, a ceremony was held on Centauri Prime, now the capital of the new Galactic Federation. People from dozens of worlds gathered in the plaza outside what had once been the Council headquarters. A monument was unveiled, a statue of Ambassador Alan Pierce, standing tall and dignified. Below it were his final words. Earth will remember. Earth will not forgive. But beneath those words a new line had been added. And the galaxy will never forget. Dr. Samantha Reed, now serving as Earth's new ambassador to the Federation, gave the dedication speech. My husband believed in humanity's capacity for greatness, she said, looking out at the diverse crowd of humans and aliens. Not just our technology or our strength, but our compassion and wisdom. She placed her hand on the cool stone of the monument. Today we honor him not through vengeance completed, but through justice served and peace preserved. That is humanity's true power. Not that we can fight when needed, but that we can choose a better path when the fighting is done. As she spoke, ships from Earth and 100 worlds flew overhead in salute. Former enemies now allies. Former oppressors now partners in building something new. In the crowd, Admiral Collins stood next to Colonel Blackwood and Captain Martinez. Pierce would have liked this, he said quietly. Blackwood nodded. He would have been proud. His death united not just Earth but half the galaxy. Martinez looked up at the ships overhead. So what happens now, Admiral? Collins smiled slightly. Now, Captain. Now the real work begins. Building something is always harder than destroying. But humans are pretty good at that too. As the ceremony ended, delegates from across the galaxy moved into what had once been the Council chambers. There they would continue writing the charter for their new federation. And at the center of the table sat an empty chair, reserved in honor of the human envoy whose death had changed the galaxy forever. Earth had remembered. Earth had not forgiven. But Earth had also shown the stars a better way forward.